ECU was very important to Governor George Nigh. He didn't intend to come to East Central originally. He was passing through here and met the student body, ultimately became a student here, went on to be president of the student body, and was a great leader for East Central University. He went to law school, but he didn't like it. He was an education major and he wanted to teach. So he went back to be a teacher. He became the youngest state representative in the history of Oklahoma at the time. But he never forgot East Central. He came here often. George and I visited our campus numerous times through the years. He would regale us in stories about how much fun he had and how much he learned and how East Central provided the building blocks that made him a leader in our state. And the multiple times he was sworn in as governor, the long tenureship, he never forgot. And he always used to have a slogan that said, "You can get there from here." That's East Central University.
I would define Governor Nigh as a servant leader. And you see that in lots of people, but he really embodies that. When I received this award as a college student, I was also presented with a copy of his book, Good Guys Wear White Hats. And so that book, I mean, just even the title kind of embodies I don't know, maybe old school servant leader kind of person. And so he really was one to get involved and work and serve others. And hopefully that people would be inspired by that and follow his lead. And we all have the capacity to be someone who leads with a servant's heart. And I would encourage you to look for ways that you can use your unique skills, abilities, education to serve others and to lead others in that same path.
I hope they look back on George Nigh and they see not only his accomplishments, but they think about the fact that this man spent his whole life in public service. He could have been on boards and corporate and done things that served his pocketbook. But what George Nigh did was spend his whole life trying to give back to the state he loved. He loved Oklahoma. He loved East Central University, and he gave back all the way until his death.
As an undergrad, earlier in my career, I had been invited to a luncheon very similar to this and was able to hear Governor Nigh speak, and he was just a really, really inspiring speaker, talking about how from his beginnings and his time at ECU, he was able to really contribute to public service in Oklahoma. Part of why he was so inspiring was because his excitement about public service was just contagious.
One of the things that made George connect with our students so much, we used to do a big luncheon and a big banquet, and he would give the traditional after-dinner speech and talk about leadership and talk about community service, the things that were important for the students and how they got to become Nigh finalists. But as he got older, he had a hip problem, and standing for long periods of time became an issue. I called Governor Nigh and I asked him if he would mind allowing the students to question him in front of an audience. He said, absolutely. And it was so amazing to watch him connect with the students. He would remember their hometowns. He could tell them stories about the hometown, or if whatever their major was, he knew a lot. And the students really connected with George, and he connected with them. And I thought the question and answer format was one of the things that made the Nigh Award ceremony and the final selection process so competitive. How the students questioned George Nigh, how they followed up, their maturity, their poise in that setting was how you break a very hard tie, because they all deserve the award. But watching those questions and answers was, I thought, magical. And George did a great job at that.
The award is three pieces: academics, and all of the students that are invited to apply, just based on the process, are top-tier academic students. So we look at that, and they're all impressive. So that's one piece. Second is leadership. And so in what way have those students taken initiative to either be elected or find leadership positions? And then what have they accomplished as that leader? And then also service. What how is that student using their skills and unique abilities and what they're learning here in a way to serve others? And that looks different depending on if we're talking about an education major, a business major, someone in the sciences, but they're all incredibly meaningful contributions and then potential contributions in their future career. Not just service on campus, but how are they going to use what they're learning here from ECU in their future career to serve others.
For a student to receive the George Nigh Award, in my mind, it's simply the highest honor this university bestows on students. And the Nigh winners go through a tremendous vetting process. When we say these are the best of the best, they really are the best of the best East Central students offer. Every year, it's so impressive, not only the Nigh Award winner, but all of the people that are considered as finalists for the Nigh Award are just going to be fantastic citizens when they graduate.
Choosing is always hard. The committee struggles every year. It takes a lot of time and heartache for us to come to a winner. We're tasked with choosing the best, but all of the nominees are really good every year, and it takes us a little while to decide who to interview, and then after the interviews, we like them all even more and are impressed by their accomplishments even more, and so it's definitely the hardest part. Again, it's a privilege to get to know and spend time with these students, but that makes it even harder to select one. I love that we're having this event to honor all of the finalists because they're all well-deserving.
I can tell you, if you go back and interview our Nigh Award winners, almost all of them will tell you it was one of the most momentous days of their lives to receive the George Nigh Award.
I think that any success and generally any failure that we have in life, we can trace it back to something else that happened along the way in addition to what is current. I would like to think that people who go from East Central and become successful would look back at the years that they spent on campus and think, this made a difference, this made a difference, this made a difference. The outstanding faculty, the staff, the great students that you meet there, that are your friends for the rest of your life. But a scholarship is also important because it recognizes someone who has done something or who needs a little help or who stands for something particular emphasis that people want to encourage. And then to have a scholarship for the outstanding scholar and leader at East Central in my name is a great honor. I repeat that several times. I'm honored that East Central has a scholarship in my name. I just hope that it encourages people like I was encouraged to do the best they can in their life and to make it eternally successful. I kind of have been toying with an idea of what I want to call pass it on. And I think that mentioning Julian Rothbaum's name is a great segue into pass it on. And that is to tell people that once you've become successful in your life, don't forget that there are others who are trying to follow you, trying to be successful, that might need a little help along the way. And so it's appropriate that we then, having been successful in some area, would turn and pass it on to somebody else the opportunity to enhance their life, to be more successful. And then I would just challenge those to whom it has been passed on to pass it on even yet another, kind of like a relay run. My 13-year-old granddaughter is on a relay team, and they passed the baton. And everybody understands that. The track team at East Central, the track team at Ada High, that you pass the baton, you pass it on. And that's what we ought to be doing in life. Once we've been able to achieve our success, we then need to remember those who made it possible for us, and then turn and pass it on and make it possible for someone else to follow us. So congratulations to those who were considered as Knight Scholars. And congratulations, of course, to Doug once again. Congratulations to East Central for the great university that you have. Thanks to President Cole, who was a great personal friend of mine. And I appreciate those in Ada who at this luncheon today, who understand that I regret that I can't be with them, but I'm very proud of my association with a great university at East Central. Thank you.